my friends. Welcome to another episode of the High Performing Dental Team. And I have a very special guest on my podcast today. One of my good friends, colleagues in the dental industry, David Harris, who is a certified fraud examiner. He has his own company. In fact, one thing I read about your company, David, is that you have the longest standing embezzlement company ever, right? In the whole world, or
for dental embezzlement, yeah.
okay.
We started Dayna in 1989, and we've got 25 people now. So I think that also probably makes us the biggest.
Yeah, I was reading all about that. Now, David and I have known each other, for probably a little over 10 years. We met at SCN, the Speaking Consulting Network, that we have known each other in that organization for quite a while. We've also introduced each other as guests, as speakers at speaking engagements around the country. We like to introduce each other when we're speaking at the same event. So that's always fun when you get to introduce a friend to the attendees. So that's always a great experience. And I just think that, you have one of the coolest jobs in dentistry. Seriously, you get to chase and catch and prosecute people that are stealing from our doctors. I think that would be one of the coolest jobs in dentistry, to help doctors really protect themselves from people that are stealing from them. Don't you think you have one of the coolest jobs in dentistry?
It definitely has its moments, and just when I think I've seen everything, something really new and weird comes along, and you say to yourself, okay, I really haven't seen it all after all. And the chasing and the catching and the putting people in jail is certainly part of what we do, and it makes for the more memorable moments. But our other focus is on prevention.
Mm-hmm.
How can we lower doctors' risks? And you and I both work with these people all day, and we know how they think, which is, I just want to fix teeth, and I wish the rest of the world would just let me do that without dragging me into all these other things. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, that's kind of where the trouble starts.
I agree. I see it a lot. I work with dental practices every day, and when I see something that just doesn't look right, it's always hard to bring it up with the doctors because they really don't want to talk about it. They want to sweep it under the rug. They don't want to look at it. They want to trust the team, and I want to trust the team too. But what we also know is that the people that steal from doctors are usually the ones that you trust the most.
The way that we humans handle trust is kind of interesting. When we first meet somebody, within probably the first 30 to 45 seconds, you ask the question, do I think this person is worthy of my trust? And if the answer to that question is yes, then you kind of put it in a closet and lock it away and never, ever bring it out again.
Uh-huh.
And as you know, Dayna, trust when we're talking about dental staff has to be a little more fluid than that. We see a lot of thieves who worked in a practice for 15 years or 20 years. And then one morning they started stealing.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
something happened in their life. Maybe they had their 60th birthday and they looked at the money in their 401k and they said, that's never going to keep me in retirement. That longtime employee
Mm-hmm.
who probably had no plan to steal when they were hired starts doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. So the employee feels like they've built this 10, 15-year relationship with the doctor, and they're never going to look at anything that I do. And they keep getting more and more responsibilities, and they have more and more access.
Absolutely. And if you didn't trust somebody, then I think exactly where you're going with this. They probably couldn't steal because they wouldn't have the access. So it's always a trusted employee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But as I say, we've got to consider trust as a concept that needs reevaluation periodically. It's not something that we can solve once for somebody that will last for 40 years. It doesn't work that way.
Agree. I think you always are you build the trust, and then you have to learn how to keep it and hold it. And and that takes a lot. That takes a lot on both sides, in the dental practice. So I love, you are a keynote speaker, and I love the title of your keynote presentation, How to Outsmart an Embezzler. And so I'd love to hear some of the key takeaways that you talk about in your presentations, because of course, I know you can't tell us everything because then we would be giving away all the secrets of an embezzler, but tell us, when you are in front of an audience and you're speaking to an attendee, help us with some of those key takeaways.
One of the things I talk about is hiring. A lot of dentists are really casual about pre-employment screening.
Okay.
And especially at times like now, and we're recording this in 2025 when every dentist is complaining that it's hard to find people. The temptation is to skip or radically downgrade the pre-employment screening.
Yeah, that's true.
A few things that every dentist listening to this needs to hear. The first is that 70 million Americans, which is 1 in 4 adults, has a criminal record. So if you're hiring and you're not doing a criminal record check as part of your workup, you're playing Russian roulette.
Good point.
Eventually you're going to lose. I'll also mention that somewhere between 40 and 60% of resumes are embellished somehow. And there are a lot of places. I mean, it might be claiming a college degree the person doesn't have. It might be upgrading their previous job title from receptionist that the doctor gave them to office manager, that is a title they didn't have, but they think will help them in this application.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff going on. I'll add one more to this, which is that it absolutely astounds me that the norm in dentistry is that applicants are not drug tested as part of their workup.
Okay.
And one of the things I see firsthand is how much crime is driven by drug addiction.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you're a dentist, how important is it to you that dental assistant passing you sharp instruments is not high this morning?
Wow.
And for the benefit of the audience, drug testing has gotten a lot easier to do in the past couple of years.
Okay.
And the reason is there's now viable saliva-based drug testing. Traditionally, drug testing was based on blood and urine, which meant that somebody had to go to a lab. And
Okay.
if you practice in a small town where there's no lab, now somebody might have to drive 100 miles to get tested. But saliva-based drug testing, I mean, the doctor can supervise it right in their practice.
Okay. So when we're looking at screening a potential hiree, a potential employee in our practice, screening for history. So we want to check for previous criminal history, and we also want to do a drug test. Now, I don't do HR in my practices. That's not my specialty. I guess my first question would be the legality of it. I'm sure it's legal to do all of that. And then how quickly can those tests be turned around?
The drug testing, if it's saliva-based, is almost instant.
Okay.
The criminal record check, there are companies that will do that for you. Usually takes a couple of days.
Okay.
And it doesn't stop there. There are some other things I want to check too. One of the big things, Dayna, is I want to talk to former employers.
Yes.
Sometimes dentists will allow an applicant to submit references. It is not remotely important to me what somebody's high school basketball coach or their parish priest think about them. The only people I want to talk to are former employers. And I'm going to give a pro tip to the audience.
Okay, great.
When you are calling former employers, do not ever phone any phone number that an applicant gives you. When they say that they worked at a certain practice, go online, use your favorite search engine, find the phone number for the practice, call that number, and then ask to speak to the doctor, and you will know that you're talking to the right person. We have seen thieves who hand their uncle a disposable cell phone and say, here, when this answers, pretend you're Dr. So-and-so and give me a great reference.
Oh, wow. That is a pro tip. I would have never have thought that. Of course, I'm not a thief, and I don't lie. I don't steal. And so I would never have even thought of that. That is a bonus tip. So we're just going to repeat that again. So because also it could be the office manager. It could also be the practice's dental consultant that is screening the applicants. And so if you are listening to this podcast and you have someone else that is reviewing your resumes, David's pro tip for you, I mean, this is probably one of the best things I've heard, is never call the phone number that is on the resume as a reference. If you want to call the previous employer, Google search the the practice's phone number and then call directly to the practice. That was a great pro tip. All right, perfect.
Couple of other things that we should do as part of pre-employment screening. One thing that I like to do is take a look at somebody's social networking activity.
Okay.
And you can learn an awful lot about somebody from social media, and you get to see kind of their use of language and whether, they can string a sentence together in a way that would meet your standard for your practice.
Mm-hmm.
You can look for evidence of a high-risk lifestyle. You can look for people who bash their current employer online, because as soon as you look at them sideways, they're going to be doing that to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's another good source of information. One thing that I should have mentioned probably first is the first thing I think anybody should do is check the photo ID of an applicant. You're applying for a job with me, Dayna, and I'm doing the you've made it to the interview stage, and I'm doing the interview with you. One of the things I'm going to say to you is, Dayna, I just need to check your driver's license or some form of photo ID and a couple of pieces of secondary identification.
Mm-hmm.
And the secondary stuff could be anything: a gym membership, a library card, a student card, credit card. But I want to see 3 things with your name on them, one of which has a picture. My logic there is that if you have baggage, you can define that baggage whatever way you want, but you don't want me to find it. The easiest way to hide that is to apply as somebody else.
Interesting.
So, true story, I have a brother who's a little younger than me. He's been in and out of prison most of his adult life, and he's out right now and he's looking for a job. And the thing that holds him back is he's got a rap sheet that's 4 feet long. One thought that might occur to him is, well, why don't I apply as my brother? I know his birth date. I'll find some way to get his social security number, and I'll just apply as David.
Oh, wow.
And if the person doing the hiring is a little bit casual about this,
yeah,
then my brother gets a job that he just should never, ever have.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we need to pin down somebody's ID. And again, the time to do that is in the job interview.
Yes.
Everybody knows, that if you get hired by me, there's going to be that I-9 form that you have to complete, which requires 1, not 3, 1 piece of ID. So by the time you get to that point, you'll be ready.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm trying to do is catch you unprepared. So we're having this interview, and Dayna says, well, I didn't bring my driver's license with me, and I don't have any credit cards here either. So, Dayna, let me see if I understand this. You drove 15 miles here.
Yeah.
You don't have your license with you. And if your car breaks down, you don't have a credit card to call a tow truck. I'm starting to question your judgment.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, for sure. Now, does your company offer background checks?
We do not.
Okay.
There's so much regulation around that industry, and there are people who are really good at it. I just never saw it as a space we need to be in.
Okay. I had never asked you that, so I wanted to double check.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we've heard about hiring is your first go-to when you're trying to outsmart an embezzler. Part of your takeaways in your keynote presentation. What else would we learn if we were sitting in your keynote presentation today?
One thing I talk about is dividing up duties between your team.
Okay.
And this is one of the best ways to lower your risk of embezzlement. In almost every embezzlement, Dayna, one of the unifying factors is that you have one person who handles all the money.
Yes, I have seen that a lot.
Yep. And what I tell dentists is there are six jobs in what DSOs call the revenue cycle. And basically, the revenue cycle is the sequence of activities that have to happen to put money in the doctor's bank account. So those 6 things are: treatment gets entered into practice management software. And your audience know that you're the Dentrix goddess. So, we could be talking about Dentrix, but it's exactly the same in any other software. So,
of course,
treatment gets entered, and then patients and insurance companies get billed, and then hopefully they pay. Mm-hmm. And then those payments get what Dayna would call posted. Maybe somebody else would call it entered into the practice management software.
Yep.
And then at the end of the day, there's a balancing activity that happens where the amount collected according to Dentrix or other software gets matched against bank deposits.
Yes.
And then finally a deposit is made. So our 6 items again are: treatment gets entered, patients and insurance companies get billed, they pay, the payments get posted into software, and then there's balancing at the end of the day, and then there's a deposit.
Yes.
And I'm going to give the audience 3 rules that they should follow with those 6 tasks.
Okay.
The first rule is the only people who should enter treatment into the software are clinicians who were in the room when it happened. So the idea of a front desk person entering treatment is a really bad idea. It should only happen.
I like that rule.
If we're talking about a dental operatory, typically it should be the assistant who enters the treatment. If we're talking about a hygiene operatory, it should normally be the hygienist.
I like that rule.
And that stops a lot of errors, first of all. And secondly, it changes the dynamic of embezzlement. Because what that means is that if I'm a patient and I have a crown placed, by the time I get to the front desk, I have a balance with the practice. So I owe the practice money at that point.
Yes.
And if Dayna's the front desk person who's going to steal my money, a complication for her is that this $1,800 balance is there. And whatever she does to make that balance go away is going to be visible.
Yes.
On the other hand, if you are the person entering treatment, I'm standing in front of you with a 0 balance, and that's much easier for you to work around if you're stealing.
Interesting. My gosh, this is so good.
So rule number 1 is, again, the only people entering treatment are clinicians who are in the room. I have 2 more rules.
Okay.
Because we've got 5 jobs left, right? The patients and insurance companies get billed, they pay, the payments get entered into software, there's balancing at the end of the day, and then there's a bank deposit.
Yes.
And my 2 rules are nobody should do more than 2 of those. No one person should do more than 2 of those tasks.
2 of the 3.
2 of the 5.
2 of the 5. 2 of the 5. I got it. Okay.
There are 5 tasks left.
Yeah.
And the second rule is the 2 tasks that somebody does should not be sequential. So whoever does the balancing at the end of the day is not the person who makes the bank deposit.
Okay. Got it.
And let's step back and talk about why we're doing this. The point of dividing up duties is to make it so that if I want to steal, if you're a dentist and I want to steal from you, I have to go to one of my coworkers and say, I want to steal from Dr. Johnson, but I really need your help. And the requirement for me to have that conversation will stop about 80% of embezzlers, of wannabe embezzlers, from even trying. So this is really cheap, inexpensive protection. Now, I know what some of the audience are thinking. You know, there are big practices that have all kinds of people, and this shouldn't be a problem for them. But I have the classic small practice. I'm the dentist. I have 1 assistant, 1 hygienist, and 1 front desk person. How do I divide up tasks when I only have 1 person at the front desk? And the answer is you need to get a little bit creative.
For sure. No, I agree.
For example, if I'm the doctor, I should be the person in that scenario who gets the mail. And when I say get the mail, Dayna, I don't mean that it comes into the front desk and then somebody puts it on my desk. What it means is I'm the first person to have control of the mail. So typically that means a post office box, and I have the key, and on the way to work, I stop in and get the mail. And what that means is I'm the person receiving the payments. Now, I then can't just take the whole mail and dump it on the front desk person's desk and say, here you go. I got to open it, see what's inside, and then, you know, I will give it to the front desk person knowing which checks came in today.
Yes. Yes. That's important.
You know, another thing you could do is make it part of your assistant's day and responsibility to do the balancing.
Well, and I think I'd like to just kind of stop for a second and talk about balancing, because
let's do that.
Because one of the things that I ask every office I work with is who is balancing the day sheet. And most of the time, nobody is. Nobody is balancing the day sheet. And the questions I get are, well, what's it for? You know, why do we have to do that? I'm shocked at how many offices don't ever even look at the day sheet. And most of the time it's, I don't have time. You know, why do I need to do that? And then we create a plan for how do you make that happen? And so what's your take on balancing every day?
Well, let's talk about balancing 101. And my heritage, I've been in this business for 35 years. And when I started in 1989, practices weren't computerized.
Right.
And they used to use the old pegboard system that was kind of the antecedent of practice management software. And in pegboard, balancing was really important because all of the adding was done manually, and that was the way you found adding mistakes.
Exactly.
Move forward to a computerized practice, and the adding is inevitably correct. What may or may not be correct is the entries that happen before that adding takes place. So a check comes in today, and let's say somehow it just ends up in the deposit, but it didn't get posted to practice management software. Balancing will catch that.
For sure. 100%.
And it will catch the opposite, which is, something got entered into practice management software, but there's nothing to deposit. So it is one of the most basic financial controls in a practice. And
yeah, I agree.
If you're a dentist or an office manager listening to this, it must happen.
Yeah, I agree.
There is no other way. So let's differentiate.
It's a non-negotiable for me. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me. And you're right. I am astounded because in the days when I worked in dental offices and in pegboard systems, I mean, you didn't go home till you balanced. That was just a given. And in those days you were balancing against ledger cards. So they were these paper cards, and you would get so mad when you found two of the cards in the doctor's office stuck under a pile of charts because you couldn't balance without them.
Exactly.
So we've evolved from that to exactly what you say, where some people don't even know what balancing is or why they should do it. But it's the basic financial control of checking what is going on deposit versus what was collected.
I agree with you 100%.
And it is so much faster in a computerized practice than it ever was in the old manual system. So when people are complaining about not having the time to do it, I tend not to take them seriously. Yeah. Now, let's differentiate between staff tasks and doctor tasks.
Okay.
And in my mind, balancing at the end of each day is a staff task.
Yes.
There is a parallel doctor task, which is making sure that the amount of money that the staff said was collected, or that the practice management software said was collected, lines up with the bank deposit. Traditionally, the requirement was that staff would balance, put it on the doctor's desk at the end of the day, and the doctor would check the balancing and say, okay, it balances, you can go deposit the money. That worked really well in 1990. I think there's a better way in 2025. And what I encourage doctors to do on a monthly basis is to take their month-end reporting from their software and compare that to what went into their bank account.
Great.
In other words, this is not something in my mind that needs to happen every day. Now, there's an intermediate step, and most of the audience, I will bet, has never heard this before.
Okay.
So at the end of each day, if I'm the dentist, what should happen is I should get a day-end report from software. As I say, I don't suggest that dentists try to follow the money into the bank on a daily basis. I think their review should be, are the basic entries right?
Yeah,
in other words,
I agree with that. Was it posted to the right provider? Did we do a build up or did we not? Things like that.
Yep, exactly. And if I'm looking, for example, at hygiene, does the amount of radiography seem to more or less support my standing orders as far as X-rays go?
Yeah,
that's the kind of stuff you're looking at on a daily basis. The second thing I'll say is that the report you look at the end of the day, if you're a doctor, should be the one you printed yourself. In other words, when you allow somebody to hand you a report, you have opened the door to selective reporting.
Ooh, that's good. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
So doctor, print your own damn reports. I can't put it any more bluntly than that. But here's the intermediate step. So at the end of the day, I look at my report. I say, okay, this makes sense. I should probably put my initials on it so I know that that's the report that I saw. And then I put it away.
Okay.
And what I do at the month end is I print a month end summary, and I pull out those day end reports that I've looked at.
Okay.
Let's say I was open 16 days this month.
Okay.
So I have in one hand I have 16 end of day reports, and in the other hand I have a month end summary.
Got it. Okay, I'm following.
What we have to do next, I call articulation. And what articulation means in this context is then I add up for those 16 day end reports 3 key numbers, which are fees, adjustments, and payments. and they should be exactly the same as what's on the month-end summary.
I love that.
And if they're not, Dayna, what it means is somebody came in after hours and they put through some stuff in my software that they did not want me to see. Okay, because if somebody comes in on a Saturday when the practice is closed and they write off a bunch of account balances, for example,
For sure.
now my reporting won't articulate.
It will not. That is true. Yeah.
Okay? So put another way, articulation is a way of making sure that everything that's gone through my software is on one of those reports that I've seen and put my initials on.
That is what a great recommendation. And so the only thing I'm going to add to that, doctors, because David said, print your own damn reports. If you don't know how to print those reports, that's when you need to reach out to me because I can help you with that. I can help you print those reports and learn how to do it the right way, David's way, with David's recommendations. Oh my gosh, this is so good. Okay, so we have talked about hiring. We have talked about your day, like those 5 tasks, 6 tasks, I think it was, that happen every day. I loved what you said about having the clinicians post the treatment that was performed today. I am going to really start talking more about that. And that's where else you just need software training. If your assistants and your hygienists need to learn how to post treatment, I mean, that's just all about training. And so then we talked about those tasks, and then like 2 of those last 5 shouldn't be done by the same person or consecutively. Did I get that right?
Nobody does more than 2, and the 2 aren't consecutive.
Got it. Okay, perfect. All right.
And again, what we're doing, Dayna, is we're introducing somebody in between my 2 tasks. So if I'm the person who is posting payments to software, then I don't get to do the end of day balancing. Somebody else does that.
Yes.
And then when somebody else balances, then I could make the bank deposit after that, because the person who balances is going to know how much is in the deposit and should be able to make sure that I'm depositing the right amount.
You know what you need to create, David, is a flow chart. We need to see a flow chart of those 6 tasks and who they get connected to. So then the office can plug in the names of the people that do those tasks. That's something we need to work on that.
Well, interestingly, we'll be doing that. We have a live event coming up in October in Texas. And one of the exercises that we're going to get attendees to go through is to map out who can do what within those 3 constraints. Now, we were talking about articulation a minute ago. And again, that's the concept that the daily and the monthly stuff should line up.
Mm-hmm.
Once that's done, now you can reliably work from a month-end report. And what the doctor has to do next is compare collections from that month-end report against what went into their bank.
Yes, of course.
Are those 2 going to line up perfectly? I don't think so. They normally will not. And the reason is something we call timing differences.
For sure. Yeah.
So if a patient pays by credit card on the last day of the month, for example, Dentrix will capture that as a transaction from this month, but the money typically won't hit your bank account for a couple of more days.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's going to cause an inaccuracy between the collections and deposits. Here's the thing that a lot of dentists don't think about. That timing difference will reverse next month. So let's say on the last day of this month, the patient pays $4,000 by credit card. And in our simplified example, let's assume that is the only timing difference from the month. So what the doctor is going to see when they do their comparison of collections versus deposits is that collections, according to Dentrix, are greater than bank deposits by $4,000 this month.
Mm-hmm.
But next month, there's going to be a bank deposit of $4,000 with no offsetting entry in Dentrix because the offset happened this month.
Mm-hmm.
So if that was the only timing difference next month, then deposits would be greater than collections by $4,000 next month.
Yeah.
So what I tell dentists is you're going to see a little bit of difference between collections and deposits. Stick it on a graph each month.
Okay.
And if it's timing, what you're going to see is kind of a rough version of a sine wave. In other words, there will be some months when collections are greater than deposits, and there will be some months when deposits are greater than collections. If you had 5 months in a row where your practice management software said you collected more than what went in your bank, that's probably not timing anymore, and the chance that somebody has their hand in your pocket is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good point.
So that's the kind of quick and dirty way, because the other way would be to try to track down these timing differences and make sure that the other half of them happen later. That's probably going to take more time than most doctors want to devote to this.
Mm-hmm.
But to graph stuff and look at the graph pattern is really quick, and that's kind of what I'd suggest they do instead.
Okay. Okay. That's a great point. And I loved what you said about your doing this in a in-person event. And that event that's happening, I think you said it was October 18th. Is that right?
October 18th, just outside Dallas, Irving, Texas.
Irving. Yeah. And doctors only. And I think you said they could bring a spouse because the spouse is technically one of the practice owners, but no team. So it is doctors only event.
It is doctors only, and I'll mention that the Cowboys are playing the Commanders the next day. We kind of timed it. Dayna's a big football fan, for those of you who know her.
Yes,
so we
do.
kind of timed it so those who want to could stick around and watch the game.
Yeah, that's a great point. I love to revolve events around any kind of sporting event. Yeah, David and I do talk about sports a lot. I'm a Seahawk fan, and so we talk about football a lot. Okay, good. So, any last tips on how to outsmart an embezzler from you?
Yeah, there's one thing I'm going to say that I suspect will resonate well with Dayna. She has trained a lot of people on practice management software, and I would hate to close my eyes and try to visualize how many people you have trained. I suspect a lot of times when you do training, the doctor is nowhere around.
That is true.
And they kind of view practice management software as something for the staff to learn and them to ignore. What I'm going to say is this, Doctor, that software is more important to your financial well-being than your handpiece is. And you all know that handpiece like it's your child. But when it comes to the practice management software, it's like, oh, I might break something. I don't think you need to have the same training that your staff have. In other words, it's not remotely important to me that you know how to book an appointment for somebody or reschedule an appointment or do a lot of the staff tasks in software. What you do need to know how to do is to obtain reports, and more than that, you need to know which ones are relevant, because most practice management software packages can generate probably 100 reports.
Yes, yeah.
Exactly. And you might need 5 of those for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So the message to doctors is software is not going away.
That's true.
It's going to be with you for the rest of your career. And if you haven't done this yet, it's a good time to embrace it. And if you want a doctor-specific training program that will teach you about reports and how to generate them and how to interpret them, I'm sure Dayna would love to work out something that's customized for you, that's not going to take you through the stuff the staff need to know. I don't think you need to know every facet of the software, but to get comfortable enough to do certain things is a really, really good idea.
And
reach out to Dayna on that one.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because as you know, my audience knows, I do in-person Dentrix user meetings around the country, and I am having my first doctor-only event in Seattle.
Very cool.
Yep. And we're going to be talking all about that exactly. How to protect their license, how to make data-driven decisions, how to look at reports, what reports are important. So this was perfect. And I'm excited about doing this doctor-only event. I think it's going to be fantastic.
That's a marvelous idea.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, thank you, David. This was, oh my gosh, eye-opening for me. I mean, I'm going to start taking your tips to my offices. A lot of what you said, I teach, but you had some really great recommendations, and I'm definitely going to start implementing some of your recommendations into my teachings. So
that is wonderful.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being a guest today. And, if somebody wants to reach out to you, maybe one of our doctors is listening and he's like, I need to reach out to David. How do they get a hold of you?
The best way probably is our website, which is www.prosperident.com.
Okay. I'll have all of that in the show notes. So
I don't have to spell it? Okay.
You don't have to spell it. I'll have it in the show notes. They can just click on it. I'll also have the link to David's doctor-only event that's happening in October, just outside of Dallas, Texas. I'll also have the link to that, so you can register for that. Yeah. All right. Thank you, my friend. And I thank all of you for joining me today. I know this one went a little bit longer than usual, but we had a lot of really good stuff to talk about. And so if you want to reach out to me about anything we talked about, feel free to do that. If you really found this episode helpful for your practice, please share it with your colleagues. If you're part of a study group, share it with your study group. Doctors, please rate it and review it. That is how we get our information out to more people. And I look forward to watching your journey of becoming a high-performing dental team.